Hey guys, what kind of trouble am I getting into today? I am under Rusty, back on Rusty, and so when I originally put the RideTech coilover suspension in, all I did was tack in the rear end. I didn't try to center it or anything like that. So now I'm actually doing that. I've got it set up at, you guys can see that, that's at, I'm going to try to set, there we go, 3 degrees down at the tail shaft. Rob at Half Rods, thank you so much. I looked back through a bunch of your videos, found it on your wife's, when you're building your wife's car and you went over it. So thank you so much for giving me that. The only problem is I don't have the engine and transmission in to get the tail shaft. So right now I'm just going to tack these in. And then if I keep him or the next owner has him, they can get everything dialed in a little bit more. But for right now, it's a rough setup. Let me show you guys how I set up the centering part of it. All right, so this is what I did. I took a little straight edge on each side. I have a ruler. Whoops, get that over there. There you go. If you guys can focus in there. All right, so I've got a ruler hanging down from that side. I just attached it. And then what I did was, get myself in here, sorry guys. So I ran that down, straight down, and then from there, what I did was I took the inner bracket plate from the tail shaft here, the axle housing, and then what I did was I measured, and it's 4 3/4. You guys can see that. It's kind of hard to see from there, but that's 4 3/4 on that side, and then came back over to this side as I'm crawling around. Sorry guys. Oops, get that guy. Whoa, there we go. Okay, and this guy, if you look at it, let me see if I can get it there, is 4 3/4 on that side. So now that I've got that, I've got it centered. Now RideTech says on their instructions right over there that you have to be 4.5 inches down at ride height. So they recommend that you put in a brace of some sort and then attach or tack weld your axle housing to it. And then once you do that, then you can weld on the brackets themselves. So what I'm going to do now is lower him down and tack weld these guys to this guy now that he's centered, and 3 degrees down. Oops, it went off at 3 degrees down right there. And then I can tack weld these guys on, and I'm going to tack them. I'm not going to put a big bead on or anything like that, just because I don't know, down the road if I need to change it, like I said, because of what's going on with the axle. But the nice thing about the 4-link is you can actually change that as well with the I'm forgetting the name of these. Anyway, those guys right there, you can the heim joints, you can then change, you can unscrew them or screw them in to give yourself, to rotate yourself to get the degrees you're looking for. So this is a rough. It should get me there, and then if I need to make any changes, I can do that down the road. So that's what I'm doing right now. So let me lower this down and put those tacks in, and then we'll see. So moving forward, we have the 4.5 inch blocks in there. Oops, I set the 3 degrees down, and now I've got my 4-link bars coming up, and I'm gonna weld those to it. Hopefully get everything is measured out 5 3/8 on each side from the end of the frame, the edge of the frame, to the edge of the axle bracket, or the inside edge of the axle bracket. So, and this Ford 9, I bought it from a friend of mine, well, a friend of a friend that had it on an autocross Camaro. So I don't know what the original widths were on it or anything like that. He gave me a smoking deal on it, so I was really grateful. And yeah, so it has axles in it, just doesn't have the pumpkin in it, or the third member, I guess is what it's called. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm just going to weld these guys up into place, and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, guys, sometimes you take 5 steps forward and 25 steps back. So I did. I'm looking at it. I was putting these arms up, and I'm going, hey, why is this? There's like a breather hole. Why is it at the bottom? I went, wait a minute, looked around the other side, and you'll notice I have a D written right there. So, yeah, this is the driver's side, and I put it on the passenger side, so I have it upside down. So, I'm gonna have to cut off the tack welds I put on these guys. Luckily, these guys are still in place. I don't have to take them off. I just have to take off the axle from the posts, cut those off, and then re-weld them. So, yeah, wears me out. I'm done for the day. This is gonna have to be a tomorrow thing, and I'm done. Anyway, not discouraged, just frustrated. So, I always figure things out again. So you just have to fix your mistake and move on. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Hey guys, well, it's the next day. I've taken the rear end, flipped it over, and now it's the correct way. I bet a bunch of you guys were, well, one or two of you, whoever was watching the videos and knows about Ford 9s, were looking at it going, wait a minute, that's backwards. What is he doing? No, don't tack it into place. Yeah, I did last night. I could not believe it. So anyway, today I flipped it over. Just as a note, if you've never, like I haven't before, put in a Ford 9-inch, the hump right here, there's a little protrusion. This hump goes on the driver's side. It goes on the left side. Okay, not on the right side. What a blessing, though, guys, that I didn't actually tack on the brackets. Had I tacked or welded on the brackets, that would have been a nightmare. Thankfully, and just like I said, just a blessing. There's a right here. Let me show you guys. Okay, so when you're welding these brackets on underneath here, I put a level where my thumb is. I put a level there to make sure it's level, and I've already welded it on once before. Once about 30 minutes ago, and then I had to cut it off and weld it all back. And I'm sorry, cut and grind off the welds off. Let me explain why. So the 4-link shafts, as they come up, they've got these heim joints. They call them R joints. I think they're another technical term is heim joint. But as these come up, what I did was I wanted to have it as close to or parallel to the frame. There's a problem with that. I'm glad I figured this out before I welded it, really welded everything in. So these R joints, they allow you to pivot, right? So when the bracket's in up here, they can go in at an angle. I'll show you one on the end. See how I'm moving this back and forth? Okay, so I had it set up so that the bracket itself, like I said, was parallel to the frame right here, like this. Well, the problem with that is when the 4-link shaft here was put on there, can you guys see something that might be a problem? It's like a Where's Waldo thing. Think about when this moves. So what would happen was if you'd go up, had the possibility of it hitting, if it's over like this, hitting the body mount. See the body mount bracket right here? So I took it off, and I'm going to mount it over just a little bit so that as it goes up, there's clearance going up and down there. Hope that's focused in. I can't see it on my glasses on. Right? So I want there to be free movement up and down. Hopefully it never bottoms out that far down, but if for some reason it did, I don't want, I want to have as much clearance as possible, and I don't want to have to change the body mounts at all. So there we go. I'm gonna actually move it. Like I said, I had it over here like that, and I'm gonna move it over like that. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just to give you guys a little something on what's going on, and we're getting there slowly but surely. Don't call me Shirley. So I've got everything mocked up. 4-link is in here. I did notice that when I welded this bracket on, it's a little sideways like this. So when I take it off, what I'm going to do, I've still got a little bit of a gap on the side. So what I'm going to do is, running over things here, little creeper. I'm going to cut these guys, and then I'm just going to bend it back. So the end of the brace here isn't completely flush. So that gives me some room to drop that down. It's only these 2 tacks that I have right here. Yeah, but everything's in, seems to be good. So once I get this in and I test it to make sure everything's sitting the way it's supposed to, then I'm going to go back in and weld the RideTech brackets actually to the frame so that they're not going anywhere. So weld this guy in right here and weld this guy, just a couple, not a lot, you know, just some beefy ones. They say it's okay with just the, you know, the self-tapping screws, but I feel safer if I've got a couple beads on there. Yeah, so there we go, guys. We're moving forward. So I'm gonna now drop the rear end, take it out and put some actual welds on the brackets. And then, now that I know the spacing, and once I measured out, it wasn't 3 5/8, it was, I'm sorry, 5 3/8, it was 5.5 from side to side from the end of the frame. I think you guys remember I put a straight edge down there, and then actually what I did this last time was, if I can reach my things here. All right, so I got a level. Measuring tape, doing things with one hand. I need to get my little selfie tripod out. So I held this guy completely flat, and then I ran the tape measure from that edge right there over to the bracket on each side to make sure that I was centered. So it's centered at 5.5 on each side, so should be good to go. If I was keeping him, what I would do is I would actually have these shortened. I'd have the axle shortened because I'd want to put a lot beefier. I have mini tubs for him, so that means that the tire would actually go back to here. The wheel well would come back to here, and I'd want to have, I like that lip look, you know, the deeper dish look, and so I would just bring the hub back. I don't know how many inches it'd bring it back, but I know there's a guy in town that has a 57 that's a monster, super cool, but I really like the depth that he has of his back rims and his rims and everything. So that's probably what I would end up doing. So if nobody ends up buying Rusty, then that's probably what I'll end up doing in the future. But anyway, yeah, so he's centered now, finally. Everything's good to go. Like I said, I'm going to take this bracket, I'm going to cut these tacks here, push it down till it's level, and then once I get it to level, then I'll weld it in and be good to go. All right, moving forward. All right, so I welded the brackets in. Some of the welds I'm pretty ashamed of. They turned out bubble welds. I don't know if it's because I couldn't see really well, or if I was having a grounding issue. They really looked like a glob on that guy right there. Not really impressed with my welding on that one, but the welds that I did put over it, they're gonna stick and everything's gonna stay in place. The cross member that they have here, I welded it in place, so it's all welded in. Everything is good to go for that. And I slide around on my little creeper here, and I got this guy all welded in. So now that this guy's welded in, I can get the rear end ready to put in. However, I did a little something on the rear end that I just have to fix. So here's the rear end, and looks great. I welded it. Oh, you guys can't see that. I welded it in. Everything looks really good. Really good welds going across there. And then I was looking at it and realized that this side is forward about, looks like about 1/4 of an inch when I'm looking at it. And that's going to drive me nuts. I can't handle that when something's not, just doesn't look right. And you can see this one looks like it's sitting forward just a little bit. So it's like I'm done with the project, but no, I can't be. I can't leave it like that. So I'm going to cut the welds out, and I'm going to scoot it back a little bit and then re-weld it, and then it'll be done. But yeah, you can see how it's sitting forward just a little bit. Anyway, back to the grinding and cutting and re-welding. But we're getting there, guys. Okay, we're getting there. This one's at 0.3, and every time I move it, it moves a little bit. kind of depends on where I put it here. And this one's at 0.4. Let's jump into the other side. 0.4. .6. So I'm about 0.2 off, which I think is going to be just fine. That's the best I can do. All right, so a lot better than it was before. You can see it's lined up. Got it welded. All the welds are in. They look good. And got that down, so that's pretty cool. Got both sides here. Let's see if I can show you guys the way they look over here. So this is hard because it's got the larger part of the 9 coming down into the actual axle shaft, so had to get into that groove, but was able to get in there pretty good. So it looks like a pretty good weld going through there. Got it all dialed in, a lot better than it was before, and so we are good to go. I'm going to shoot this with some weld through primer and finally mount everything. All right, it's the next day. Everything is bolted in. We are good to go. Just thought I'd show you guys what's going on here. Got everything bolted in, welded. I painted it with some VHT epoxy black, so everything is protected from rust. Yeah, finally done, guys. I am super happy it's done. So just thought I would show you guys what everything looks like here. And I know I mentioned in the first video when I went over installing this, but this bolt right here, I had to notch it so I could get it. I had to actually grind in a notch so I could get it past the brake cable right there, attach, or brake line attachment. But yeah, everything is good to go. 4-link is in. RideTech coilovers are on. I am an excited guy. This is awesome. Feels like Christmas. So it is Easter Sunday. I went to church this morning, went to sacrament meeting, and now I'm going to spend the rest of the day with my beautiful wife. Nice to have this done. Pretty stinking cool, guys. Pretty cool. I forgot to say, Herman is still in there. The rat that makes this a rat rod. Herman is still there. All right, guys, have a great day.